Hi guys, welcome to this video. So this one is another update on the vertical board, which you can see over there. As you can see, there's much going on, there's lines and there's bits that have been painted. So I wanted to make a video and just cover the things that I've gone through. Before I do that, Happy New Year, and thanks to everyone who stuck with me over the last year. I know it's been it's a bit of a pendulum swinging between lots of different systems and things, but I'm hoping to hone it down soon into just working with styrene and doing things and converting and whatnot. Because let's face it, my painting isn't great. So, let's take a look. Right then, it's going to be a slideshow one again because I'm still having the problems with the cameras picking up the white styrene. Once I start getting this thing painted properly, then I can actually start putting it on camera, which will help a lot. Well, this first image that I've got here is basically to show you that I've made these top bits here since the last video. And what that does is it basically means that the top level up here looks like a top level, rather than before it just sort of looked like a roof to the bit, and when we were playing, nobody ever went up there. And now that it looks more like part of the table, there's a full 8 levels now that people can use. And it just looks more full. I also chopped off the excess styrene from down there. Wow, that's a terrible drawing there. So it also looks more contained as well. So that's pretty cool. Right then, so what I wanted to go through first is basically how I painted the bit at the top. So this is similar to a technique I've seen on Coranulus silicis. Mike over there, he does a technique using the AK Interactive chipping stuff. Chipping liquid? I'm not sure, but you spray that onto a base layer of rust, and then you can basically, using water, get the paint to come back off again. A method that I've used, because I want it to be a lot more hardy, is I've used varnish instead. So what I've done here is I've basically sprayed it in black, then I've sprayed it in a dark brown, then I stippled on a brown, and then stippled on an orange, trying to keep the stippling of the orange to sort of the most raised areas on the piece. Then I cracked out the airbrush, gone the wrong way, and sprayed the whole thing, after spraying it with the varnish, sprayed the whole thing grey. So as you can see here. Oh, you can also see that I've added these scuff damages, which don't show up on the white styrene. And there's all sorts of damage, and there's also these patches, which I've now applied to the whole thing. So I'm starting to make it look a lot more worn in and ancient as the hive is supposed to look. Then we go on to this bit here. So this bit here, you can basically see that what I do then, after I've sprayed on the top layer, is I use some Vallejo Airbrush Flow Improver. And what that basically does is it just breaks down the paint a little. I use that, I paint it on with a paintbrush, and then I use either my finger or a piece of kitchen towel, and I just rub it off. And that gives you the sort of faded look and the edges on those bits there. Then for these little chips here, I basically just chipped it with my finger, with my fingernail. I just attacked it with my fingernail in all these spots here, gave it some scratches up there, and that gives a really interesting look, and the nice bright reddy orange colour comes through when you do that. So that's how that looks. It needs to be finished. It needs to be painted. Some bits need to be painted silver there and up there. The patches could probably do with being a different colour to the background, just to make it very more variation. But I'm really happy with the technique, and that's basically what I wanted to show here. I wanted to sort of show that the technique works and that it's usable. Keep going the wrong way. Then I did this. So this is using exactly the same technique as I just described for the old one. This here is one of my normal railings, except I've snapped a bit and added a patch there with some rivets, and I've also added a big old patch there at the bottom, just to make it look more old and used. And then I've taken a knife and cut some edges, roughed up some of the edges down here. Stuck rivets there. I say rivets, they're more like bolts there, and there. And it all just adds to making it look a lot more industrial than it looked before. Before it looked quite sci-fi. Right then, so I did the same thing again. I applied the black, the brown, the lighter brown, then the oranges. Then I painted the whole thing grey, as I did before. Then I masked off this area up here, along with the patch, and sprayed it black, and that gave this bottom section here a solid black, so that all of this here was just completely solid black. Right, then basically I went in with the paintbrush and painted these yellow bits that you can see here. At that point, what I've got is I've got my basic rust, then I've got the varnish, and then I've got grey, black, and yellow, all layered on top. And as you can see, when I started coming in with the flow improver and scratching it off, you get these really nice areas here where it's sort of, you can see where the paint joins. You see that a lot on painted surfaces in, say, car parks and things. I think that's a really cool look that I was going for. You can see here where you've got the black bleeding through to the grey, which then goes through to the rust underneath. You can see it really nice over here. So it shows the layers of paint as well. And then on the actual yellow bit, as you can see here, we've got the yellow, and then under that you can see the black, and then there's a bit of grey, and then underneath that is the rust. It's a really nice look, in my opinion. I'm really chuffed with the way that came out. One, I'm really happy with the paint job, and two, I'm really happy with the fact that it now looks old and industrial as opposed to sort of new and sci-fi, which is one of my big worries. And that's what I worked on there. Now, next one is some work I've been doing over the last few days. So you can see the railing up there. Obviously, there's a lot more of them. There. I think there's about 10, 15, something like that in total. So they all need painting up, and the more of those I add, the more of these chevrons I've got, which is going to give me that really classic Necromunda look, which I'm really happy about. In the previous video, you saw one of these round things. I forget which one. I've added a couple more, one down there, one up here. This one down here has got 2 holes in it, which you can probably see. I'm going to do some effects on that. We've got a big old sort of end of a pipe there, which is broken. And we've got patches everywhere, patches and vents all over the place. And then, of course, loads and loads of pipes that I've added. Oh, and a little tank on the wall down there for no apparent reason, with a couple of its own pipes as well. I sat down a few days ago and basically cut out all these little pieces of styrene out of different materials, different textured styrene, and then carved off the edges to make them so that they're, one, not uniform, and two, not a flat edge. And then I went in and I basically chopped up 2.5 lengths of hex rod into tiny little discs, which I applied to both those, and as you can also see, I've applied them to the center of each one of these panels. So each one of these panels has also got 4 on there as well. I think I worked it out. Just to do the 4 in the center of each panel, I needed something close to 300 little bolts, which I've cut by hand. I'm going to need to do a lot more when it comes to doing the rest of the railings and any other details I go for. I think I need a few more patches as well, just to make it look that little bit more worn, but I'm fairly happy with the way it's going. The doors need a little bit of work to add door handles, that sort of thing, but I am getting close to a point where I can paint it now. I'm really chuffed. I've decided that the top of the hand railings, with some help from, I think it was somebody on the Yak Tribe, they need to be red because they're a sort of a danger thing, almost. And I'm also going to paint the ladders in red as well. So you're going to get this nice sort of red ladder, black and red, with chevroned railings. May leave some with the grey, just to make that look nice. But then you'll also have the red bleeding through to the grey, bleeding through to the rust as it wears off as well. Now, the reason I went for varnish, I'm not sure if I explained this at the beginning of the video. I may as well come back to my face on this point because there's no more images and you're probably bored of looking at that one. The reason I went for varnish is because this thing is because it's all modular and you can take it apart and you can stack the panels on top of each other. It's going to take a lot of wear, and that layer of varnish is basically going to stop all of the wear, hopefully. Crossed. It's going to stop all of the wear at the varnish. So over time, it's actually become more and more worn. And so it's going to become more and more rusted and decrepit looking, which I really like the idea of. The idea that a piece of train is actually going to become more and more weathered with time. Yeah, it's gonna be awesome. What I do need to add after I've done all of the painting and made it look rusted and whatnot is just grime, just lots of streaky grime and things. I'm not sure how I'm going to do that. I need to look up on it. But yeah, I'm really chuffed. It's bring it back to that camera. It looks awesome. And the more detail I add, it just gets better and better. There's a lot more detail needs to be done to the flooring as well. I need to do some spent shells, wiring that comes down off the wall and sort of spreads across the levels, and just make it look really worn in. I'm probably going to be putting some sort of grit around the place as well. Maybe use some sand on each of the levels, just to make it look less like it's clean metal almost. And then where there's pipes and things, I'm going to try and use some water effects to maybe get some drips, and then have little pools inside the flooring tiles, because the flooring tiles have a border around them, and then they have a sub detail, and then there's the actual styrene they're sitting on, so they should hold water, hopefully. So those are my plans. Sorry I haven't put many videos on this. All the time that I've had spare I've spent doing things to it, so yeah, I'll get us back to this screen. Right, yeah, so I want to say Happy New Year to everyone. Thank you very much for keeping up with the videos. Welcome to all the new members who've joined to see the progress of this thing. It's just nice to get into something, if you know what I mean. And it's fairly cheap as well, because all you're doing is buying styrene and then running it through the machine and sticking it all together. I've had to buy an extra tub of glue. The plastic glue I was using ran out, so I've actually used 1.5 of these so far in constructing the thing. But it's coming together. We're almost there, and then we can crack on with painting, and it's going to look awesome. And and it's going to be something I can be really proud of, and that's why I'm taking my time with it, really. Right then, yeah, thank you very much for watching. Keep up with me in between videos over here, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Stay well, guys.